Alright, so the first step, we're going to create a project. I'm going to start with the opening screen background, the welcome screen background, start screen, and then add a background for the poems. We want to get rid of Scratchy Cat. See you later. So we can go to the choose backgrounds. We're not going to use one of the backgrounds. We're going to make our own. So we're going to go to paint the background. Now it starts as a vector, and even when you switch to the bitmap, it still gives you kind of the same options, but we want to have vector graphics to start with. You think that maybe you just go to the paint bucket and I fill up this space, but really the paint bucket will only fill up a shape. So first we're going to lay down a shape, and we can change the color whenever we want. To make this shape bigger, I just have to click and drag. I can get the select tool and it'll give me the corners, and I can grab the corners to be bigger. As long as we're filling up the whole space and I can see in my window that I'm filling up the whole space, I'm good. Okay, so I want to pick a better color here though. So I'm going to choose the paint bucket and then fill, and I'm going to try out one of the gradients. So we have two different colors. So I can pick the color there, and we'll have it go to more of a blue. Yeah, there we go. I can click and drag so I can move my orange around. Okay, so there I have my background for the start screen. The code that I need to put in, because I want to make sure it starts, is when the green flag is clicked, I'm going to switch to this backdrop. Okay, so I should make sure I name my backdrops. So this is backdrop 2, but we're going to name it start. And we can get rid of this one that it gives us. Okay. So when the green flag is clicked, I start with this background. Okay, so now I need to add some text. So the text is going to be a sprite. I'm going to again go to paint. I'm going to hit the T for the text tool. And we'll have the title of your poem. And I'm going to grab, since it's vector, I can change the size of the font just by grabbing. I want something that matches the background or contrasts with the background, and I can move it in my image area, and I can see where it shows up on the screen, on the stage, but I can always change that in code too. So I want something that's a little bit more contrasting. Dark red. Okay, so that's the name of your poem. So we don't really need too much coding for this, other than when we hit the green flag, we want it to show up. So that's when the green flag is clicked, looks, show. We want it to show up. But we want it to go away. So when we move to the poem screen, to the poem backdrop, it goes away. So we're going to use in the events when I receive a message. And the message is going to be hide. And we can use that for a couple. So I go back to looks, and when I receive hide, it's going to hide that text. Okay, so we're going to make another one. We're going to make an icon or a sprite that we're going to click so the person who's going to check out our poem knows to click. So we'll say, click here to start. And I want not quite that big. And I can just sort of place it on the stage, eyeball it, or I can change it with the code later. Okay, so when I click here, it's going to start. So here's my sprite, but I'm going to add some code to it. I can just go ahead and bring in, when the green flag is clicked, show, and the hide is going to be a little bit different. But if I don't want to type it out or drag it, I can just go back to my poem. It has it there. When green flagged, I'm going to click and drag and drop it into that sprite, and then it shows up. So I want it to show, but this time I'm going to click to start here. So when this sprite is clicked, it's going to go away. we're going to hide. We're also going to give the other sprite the message that it needs to hide. So that's in the events. We're going to broadcast hide. So now my poem sprite is going to go away too, but we're also going to switch to a different backdrop, to the poem backdrop. So we're going to switch the backdrop. Okay, so now I need my backdrop that it's going to go to. So instead of making our own, what we want to do is we want to find one off the internet. So I'm going to do a Google search for backgrounds. I think maybe I want a sky, or just an image search. Something that looks like that. Okay, so I'm going to right click, control click, save image as. I'm going to create a folder, a new folder on my desktop. So new folder, Scratch Poem, and it'll save it in there. Okay. So my clouds background, I'm going to add that in. So instead of searching, instead of creating my own, I'm going to upload the backdrop from my computer. So I go back to the desktop, Scratch Poem, and bring it in. Now it brings it in as the bitmap, but I want to convert to vector so that when I change the size, it'll still look like clouds instead of pixelating and getting all weird. I can kind of look at the stage and see how I want it. I can make it bigger. Okay. So now you know that my poem I still see is there, click here to start is there, but I've coded it so it's going to go away when it switches to this backdrop. I want to name the backdrop poem. And this is not going to start. So my backdrops, on the green flag, I want to start at the start backdrop. Okay, so let's see if my code works here. So I have the green flag. It starts on my start screen background. If I click here, the text goes away, but now I need it to switch to that other background. So instead of, I'm going to my start here, click here, switch to background, I want the poem background. So it's going to broadcast hide to hide the other text. This text is going to hide. Also, it's going to switch the background. So let's see if that works. I have my start background, title of your poem, click to start here, then it switches and the text goes away. So that's our first step. All right, here you go.